This is just AMZN on Wednesday, July 14th, 2021. I said the right date today. Good start. So jumping into the daily here, we've got kind of three, well, I guess really four candles, the bodies that are really similar up here. So this one, this one, this one, and this one. So all four of those, the size of the body of the candle is really similar. We're just going sideways through here. And then these three, they really look similar. There's a smaller upper wick on this one than the other two. Obviously, this one has the longer hammer or the longer upper wick, which makes it an inverted hammer. But then I also noticed that we closed this day and opened up here, and that was like a 25-point move. And then we closed this day and opened here, and that was like a 30-point move. But still, that's less than 1%. That's kind of a typical gap. We had a bigger move when we went from that closed to that open, just a few days ago. So, we're just overall going sideways up here, and we've done this before. We go sideways for multiple days, and this being the fourth bearish candle in a row, I'm looking back to over here where we put in five, and then five bearish candles, and then we still went sideways a few more days. So, I'm not necessarily thinking that we could just explode higher right here, but I did talk about or jokingly say we could go up, down, or sideways yesterday, and we gapped up. We made a new low, and then we ended up really flat on the day, which would be sideways. So all three happened. Yay, I'm right. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. But I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong. This is my channel. I'll continue to do that. So anyway, let's jump into the 5-minute here. So we opened up the day, like I said, with that cap up, ran back down, came right back up to this same level, which is really cool. Came up to the same level. This is a great place to short if you're looking for a trade early in the day that, it's like, well, maybe that'll act as resistance. And then it did. And it came right back down to nearly the same low. So you could have just traded that as a channel or looked for an option to play that bearish. Had you held on, you would have been holding through some retracement here, but it made a nice low. And then down here, it wasn't necessarily a great level because it was putting in a new low, but there's some really small candles going on the options, and we'll look at the options here. And then I at least anticipated a run back up into the 21, and I thought maybe we'll get a rollover, or maybe we'll push up a little bit higher into these same lows, maybe up into this line. I didn't anticipate this kind of a candle coming in right here with this volume. It's like, oh man, we're not ready to roll over yet. This has to play out a little bit more. So that took out this high and retested, and then went higher, made a new high on the day. It's like, oh, we're making a bullish candle, and then it came back down. So it was really just choppy, really choppy day overall. There were a few places that, keeping in mind where we opened, seeing, oh, we've got some candles above that here. Oh, we've got a high wave candle there. Oh, here's now an inverted hammer, bullish inverted hammer, but nonetheless, it's an inverted hammer, and we never got above it. And you could have really just set this up to go bearish when it broke below it and a stop above it, and then that trade would have worked. So a lot of these things worked. These weren't necessarily what I was looking for during the day today. And so if we jump over to, let me zoom out because it'll be easier to see how these things are kind of lining up. So what I was looking at is I liked seeing we had kind of like a double bottom shape here. And it was before 10 o'clock, so I was waiting till 10 o'clock to be like, okay, can we dip back down? We didn't really. This was a great place, that I saw. It's like, oh, I could be buying this put right here, and it's at the $10 price. The main reason I didn't then is we had been oversold here on the put, which means we should be overbought in here on the stock and overbought in here on the call. And we were definitely not. This was a little bit overbought. It didn't even get overbought on the call until much later. It's like these things are not showing me the confluence that I'm usually looking for. So I'm just not going to trade it. And I missed out. I missed out on buying at 10, which let me turn off this. And so the low here was 10. So I don't know if I would have been filled at 10 to be buying there, or somebody sold that. Obviously some transaction happened. So somebody got filled at 10, however it worked out. But anyway, that, this, if I would have been buying there, I still would have had a 13 target, and um, it would have filled, gotten me out on this candle. I don't know that I would have been quick enough to turn this into, um, a much larger trade. I would have had to very quickly, as this candle is forming, cancel the target, replace the order. Um, I don't, I don't think I would have been that quick. I think I would have been like, oh man, I'm barely bouncing above 10 here. Maybe it'll get going up to 13. It had been up to, 12 here, going all the way back to 10. It's like, I'll just get out at 13. It would have been that kind of thing. And then we ended up going up to, 23 instead of just 13. So, or almost 23. No, 23.90. So that was, hindsight, obviously, yeah, it should have been in that, but based on just the put, but the call really didn't show the same setup, I'm sorry, the stock didn't show the same setup, and the call didn't really show the same setup for the confluence, not the exact same setup. I mean, but then later in the day, there were some similar things going on. So again, I'm just noticing this now, and I'm going to dig in more, but this looks like a head and shoulders. This kind of looks a little bit like an inverted head and shoulders. And then this one looks like a head and shoulders. So like seeing this and seeing it, I think it was, I don't remember now if it was yesterday. It's like, that's a reversal pattern. That's a reversal pattern. That's a reversal pattern. And the one to buy would have been the put here, but then we just went sideways. So today it didn't really look like it did anything. I mean, we pushed up a little bit here, but that would have been at most a 2-hour gain. And if you had just held on, you probably would have just went in and stopped out. We did roll back down here, but the put just didn't increase. It didn't shoot up in value like it did here. So that's really interesting that we made such a significant high, on the put as we came all the way down here. And then we still had a decent rollover, maybe, a third or half the size of this one. And this was nowhere near the size of the move that we had here. Maybe a fourth of the size of the move, if that. So just some interesting things to see how the options move. Obviously, these are this week's expiration, so it moves a little more aggressively when there's more time. But as time ticks away during the day, you see, a significant drop off because the premium decay is so great. I'm sorry, the time decay is so great. You don't get the premium baked back in as much. So you can look at next week's options. They're a little lighter on volume, but they're still good ones to be looking at. I think I was looking at 3,900 call and the, say, 3,550 put. I'm trying to remember now if it was 3,500. It's a good, either one could have been all right, but just later on the volume. But I like, looking at something around the $10 price to see what it could do, what it could hold, that kind of thing. So 3,900 call expiring next week, 3,500 put expiring next week. And, so you didn't have as significant of a move up here with the put. You didn't have the same shape form. This really doesn't look like a head and shoulders here. I'm sorry, this doesn't look like a head and shoulders. This just looks like a dip, like a V bottom. This looks like a head and shoulders still. This, well, we didn't change this chart. So that looks the same as we were just showing. So yeah, I don't see the same thing setting up here. I do like that the $9 price, or maybe $8.25, wherever this is. $9, I'm sorry, $9.18, $9, $8.80, $8.90. Yeah, I like that it held pretty much the same low throughout the day. That shows you don't have the same premium decay or time decay with next week's options. And then this pullback we had here, the call obviously was losing value through all this, but not as steep as it was losing it on the weekly. So just an interesting comparison. You still could have been buying down here. Oh, I guess it was buying, was it here? No, it was, I guess buying a put up here. This wasn't the right one to do it with. You kind of had another chance to do it here, but why would you be buying this level? Maybe it starts to roll over, you get in on hammer, it starts to break down over here. So if you had waited till then, you could have possibly been buying at 10. Excuse me, possibly buying at 10. It didn't even make it to 13. Now it's possible with some of these wicks lower, it may have filled an order at 13, but it's not showing that anybody had an order filled at 13. So I don't know that a 3R move would have worked here. I think that's why I was thinking the 3,500. I'm sorry, the 3,550 put. It's a little more expensive, but it did have more than a 3R move here. But I don't know if he would have been filled or if he would have been able to do a $100 risk without getting in early and just hoping, which, you know, it's not necessarily a strategy that works consistently. If you have a feel for the charts, then, you know, base it on that. But that's after lots of study. But just buying it and hoping it goes higher, I mean, yeah, please don't do that. So anyway, so we looked at this week's options, how they moved a little bit better than next week's options. You know, with kind of, you know, just the lower volume, and if you could have been filled or not, I don't know. But we're still just going sideways. This was a really sideways day, and we'll see if we do anything else to move more from here, or if we're just going to kind of ride along the 5 exponential a little bit longer sideways. It seems like we're holding it right now until we don't, right? So hope this helps. This is Justin AMZN. Thanks.